All right, what is going on? This is episode 3 of the devlogs of my engine. I've been a bit of a busy bee. Uh, there's a lot of new things including a new um, material pipeline called physically based rendering, which basically allows a object to be like textured using a bunch of different maps, like a normal map and everything. So it's much better. And I'll show you an example of that in the actual game. So another thing I've done as well is integrated ImGui to make a simple UI that I can get immediate feedback on for different things. So it's going to be loud. I might actually just get rid of the audio so it's not screaming in our ear while we look at this. So we've got my new PBR pipeline objects or entities. It's the same entity, but it uses a new mesh and a new material. And yeah, they look, the texture's a bit off. Like, it's not a good texture, but it's pretty close. Well, that one's not close. You know what? I just don't think this. Yeah, this texture's just not good. It just doesn't line up. But the point is, these are using the new rendering pipeline, and these two objects, the bunny and the quad, are using the old one. And you notice the bunny is blinding bright. And that's because my old shading system pretty much said if it was in the line of sight of the light source, then it's lit. There is an intensity, but that doesn't kind of fade over distance. So I'm gonna just I just want to point out with the UI, this is linked to your player, so you can like adjust the move speed. So if I crank that up all the way, it's going to be insane. I'm moving very fast. So yep, that's that. And then if I move the light around, you'll see it's moving on the objects. And using the old rendering method, it's a little bit like, what's the difference? Like, sharp. The shadows are way too sharp. There's not enough shadows that the object is casting on itself, for instance. So you can't see any definition. It just looks like a white cutout on the screen. Using the new rendering pipeline, it's much less sensitive. Well, not less sensitive. It's got a wider range of light that can be reflected off of it. So as I move this down and closer, you'll notice how nicely and smoothly the lighting shifts across the object, and you'll notice the that's physically based rendering there. So it's taking the roughness map and dynamically moving the shadows based on the light source. So yeah, it's much smoother. Whereas obviously with the old items, it almost looks like it's a completely black room, and then there's a 100,000 lumen light shining right next to it, you know. And of course the quad, where's that light source? That quad doesn't seem to be in the actual thing. But yeah, that's the new rendering pipeline and the new UI. Next on the list is probably docking this around so that it looks like a bit more of a actual program than just a random floating UI window that controls a few things in game. So yeah, a bit of a shorter one, but very, very packed with cool features. I actually didn't originally think that this was working, because I hadn't set up the light like moving or anything, so I couldn't see. But yeah, it's actually working quite well. To demonstrate that further, I might just switch up a few of our cubes here to use different textures. So yeah, the second cube, I'm gonna get to use this rusted cube one. Rusted cube albedo. Rusted cube normal. Normals with an S. Now the metallic. Shit, rusted cube metallic. Okay, and lastly, you give it the roughness map. Okay, so now it has all those textures passed in. Pretty simple to do using the new rendering pipeline, and you can use the prefabs that we have, like the cube.create PBR cube, which will tell it that it's going to be using the new rendering pipeline. It's going to make this look a bit prettier because my sanity is screaming. There we go. So now we should have one cube that's using a different set of textures, which is that one. So that one looks, it looks okay. There's some weird things going on with the actual albedo map. It looks like it's darker on top for some reason. But yeah, as I move the light source past it, you can see that obviously the metallic parts like glow first, and then there's like kind of a like a flat kind of increase in lighting on the non-metallic parts. And of course you can see all those little white spots where it's rough, so it's creating like basically a specular highlight on that tiny little roughness patch. So it just all in all makes things look more realistic. So that's the rusted iron cube, and then yeah, we have the brick wall. And yeah, I think this is a really cool spot to be in. I'm actually thinking about scrapping the old rendering pipeline completely and going PBR only. Just because I don't think anyone in their right mind would look at that old rendering pipeline and think that that's a better shadowing system than the PBR. Because look, it looks realistic. It looks like there's someone's shining like a torch across the object. That one's a bit weird because it's a bit of a flat image. There's not as much detail, but for more detailed images, it looks great. Like, things with a lot of roughness. Like, tell me that doesn't look like there's an actual, like, it looks deeper, right? But if you come to the side of it, it's dead flat. There's no dip. So yeah, that shading thing. See, it doesn't actually add change the geometry at all. It just changes, like, it's getting shaded really weird. That's better. Yeah, so the light source was reflecting off of some. Oh, well, I haven't got reflections in yet, but it was doing some weird stuff on this side. But yeah, so PBR, an easy to use rendering pipeline. Yeah, you've got the cube prefab that you can give any of the materials, which I've just paid some money to acquire a few hundred kind of high resolution PBR materials that I'm going to include with the engine. So yeah, that's where I'm at so far, and it's looking really good. I'm almost ready to move on from the renderer. There's just a few things I need to do, like screen space reflections, so SSR, and ambient occlusion, and maybe some better shadow mapping, so that I can get objects casting shadows. Yeah, other than that, don't be surprised if you don't see the old rendering pipeline in the engine anymore. PBR is the way of the future. Anyway, cool to have you guys hang out and check out the engine. Stay tuned because I'm working on this a lot. It's actually on my mind a lot lately. So, yeah, expect some progress. Anyway, otherwise, I just want to show this sensitivity thing. It goes crazy fast. Yeah, I'm really happy with the UI. It's working great. But yeah, so you could set the a point light up with a huge amount of intensity as a sun, or you could use the directional light, which is probably a bit better. But the problem with directional light is the PBR materials don't receive directional light currently. But of course they will, and they will also receive some amount of ambient lighting. Anyway, that's all I have to show. I was working on serialization for a little bit, but it's turned sour. I'm gonna look for a few different methods of saving and loading other than JSON serialization. If anyone has any ideas about serialization libraries or techniques that would be helpful with Java, be sure to pop a comment down below, because yeah, I'm having a bit of trouble with serialization. Anyway, otherwise, that's how it's done. You can use, this is how you can use the cube prefab to create a nicely shaded PBR entity. And yeah, I might move all this stuff out into a separate material where you can keep track of it, and then just pass the material into the to this function. Anyway, thank you so much. I think I already said that, but see you later. Abrupt ending.